Welcome back, everyone. J-Bone here for Total Nonstop Impact. Impact Talk for Impact fans. Right here on the YouTube and the Twitch. And wherever you get your podcast audio worldwide. To my left, your right, Mr. Front Row Bill in the house. Bill,
Jay?
how you doing, man?
Well, it's not often. We haven't had a breaking news or an emergency podcast in a long time. So it had to be a pretty big reason for us to be here on this Wednesday, not a Thursday. But it's about as big a news story as you could have in TNA right now. And I was talking to Justin, D-Back Cub, and even though we're not the ones like that it directly impacts, we're just exhausted from today because of this news.
Right. And I unfortunately missed out on a lot of the like little things that are floating around there, like reactions and stuff. Like I've got well, for those of you who are like, oh, what's happening?
What is it? What's the news? Bury the lead, why don't you?
Yeah. So I'll read the headline from this news article. It's a press release that hit Impact Wrestling, TNAWrestling.com and all their social medias earlier today, February 7th, 2024.
Yeah, because it was leaked a little earlier, but then it got confirmed. So that's what we're running with.
Okay. Yeah. So the article starts out, Anthem Sports and Entertainment, a global multi-platform media company, announced today the appointment of Anthony. Do you know how to pronounce this? I don't want to botch this, but
I'm not 100%. I think you go with what you feel, J-Bone. There's a few ways you could pronounce it.
It feels Italian, so I don't know if it's Siccione or Siccione
or Ciccone or Siccione. There could be a few ways
whatever. Yeah, it feels like it's got a lot of mozzarella cheese on it. As the president of TNA Wrestling, well then of course you're like, wait, and then a paragraph down.
Yeah, because they buried the lead.
It says he replaces Scott D'Amore, whose contract with Anthem has been terminated. D'Amore has been a part of TNA since 2003. He held many key leadership positions and played a vital role in the growth of the company, leading into its strong industry reputation today, including the successful return of the TNA wrestling brand 2024. Anthem thanks him for his commitment he brought to the business, the talent, and the people who work outside the ring. Now, back up here above that, I just skipped over it, but I'll read this. It says, the move aims to further integrate TNA wrestling into Anthem's, Anthem's entertainment group, of which I'll just say Anthony, is the president, leveraging the entire company's resources to add more value in areas including production, distribution, marketing, viewership, customer acquisition, digital revenue streams, ad sales, and sponsorships, digital tech operations, and more. And then the article continues, and then there's the blip about Anthem Sports and Entertainment.
Well, it shows you what the new guy's all about for TNA and Anthem.
We came here for a lot of money.
Yeah, right.
That's what his goal is. He's the business guy, which is not a surprise because Ed Nordholm was the president of TNA or Impact previously.
Oh, that's right. He was. So he's
Not a surprise. You see it in like the WWE today with Nick Khan. He's a businessman. He ain't a booker. He's not really a wrestling guy. He just does the business end. And I guess that's the whole issue. And we'll get into thoughts, ideas, and everything going on. But I guess that's the whole issue is when they did all this maneuvering about a year ago, it was Scott as TNA president instead. It's kind of separate from Anthem, all under Anthem, but kind of separate in a way. Now, obviously, they're rolling everything under Anthem officially. And the new president was a big executive in Anthem already. So just like Ed Nordholm before him, they're placing him in there. But obviously, either him and Scott couldn't coexist in a way. Scott either would not take to that. We'll get to a lot of it. But there's a lot of reasons why it wouldn't work out. But obviously, let us know in the chat, obviously, where your initial, I know a lot of people are getting there. We'll get to some comments. But obviously, Anthem wanted to go a certain direction. We know that for sure. And obviously, there's been some other reports that came out today, and it's getting a little more muddied in the water because I believe the new president has made a statement, and it kind of makes it the termination versus stepping down of Scott D'Amore is kind of being there. Like all that initial press release you just put out, it says terminated. That's why you have fired on the screen. Right. But now it's that there are some rumblings that maybe that wasn't the case. Like maybe it's a technical firing, but it was more they couldn't work something out and he was going to leave. But for various reasons, it goes down to this termination.
We're not going to know like the technicalities of it probably until we hear more like reliable sources over the next.
Yeah, well, we'll get into some of that, but we won't. Obviously, we may never know the exact facts. But Justin here, just as a heads up, sent you in the Discord that message from the new president. If you want to pull that up at some point.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I haven't been
because he has made a statement. So, like I said, that's where it's kind of a little bit of a different vibe from it. So,
okay,
we do know from various dirt sheets that they did, and I can confirm that they did have this conversation. Like they broke it. I think only a few people know before it became public. I believe PW Insider and Mike Johnson was the first to report this. But I believe it was pretty quick. This all happened real quick today, and nobody really seemed to have that much of an inkling that this was going to happen.
Okay.
So it doesn't seem like it was really drawn out, except unless it was just a few parties knew about it because I think Mike Johnson said he was kind of looking into it for about the last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he must have heard some kind of rumbling within the last week about
something
of some kind.
Okay. All right. Well, it's a statement from TNA Wrestling President Anthony. I'm just going to say, yeah.
Yes,
Anthony's Mr. C. I am excited and honored to be the new president of TNA Wrestling, a company rich in tradition and loved by pro wrestling fans worldwide. This move is intended to further integrate TNA Wrestling into the entertainment group of Anthem Sports and Entertainment as we work to leverage the resources of the entire company to add more value in areas such as production, distribution, marketing, viewership, customer acquisition, digital revenue streams, ad sales, and sponsorships, and digital tech operations, among others. Okay, I want to just touch on that before I continue with this. If it's strictly if you go based right off of this paragraph right here, it doesn't sound like Scott D'Amore necessarily did anything wrong. it sounds like Scott D'Amore didn't do enough. Okay, we love
Yeah,
Scott because we know how hard he worked to get it to the point where it is now. Okay?
yeah, he's about the product, the in-ring
It's-
product, the backstage, production. Like he does have a lot of say in all that. But
Right.
as you're hearing from the new president, this is a much bigger picture they're looking at.
Right. This, yeah. So the company looks like it's really trying to invest and just make it a better company, period, top to bottom, inside and out. And
Yeah, they're seeing the value that could be unearthed, I guess,
right.
now in TNA. That maybe Anthem or like a couple years ago, like let's use the Ring of Honor Sinclair as a comparison, where it was like, here's your budget, don't lose money, operate, and give us some content.
Right.
That's it. And now I think there probably was some similarities with how Anthem was treating Impact, TNA. And now it's like, okay. And I think Scott obviously was a big proponent to let's beef up things. Let's increase the production. Let's see if we can really, let's go back to TNA and really see if we can go places here. And now I almost like to look at it like that Scott's success. It almost looks like his success may have led to his own downfall here, at least at this time in Impact and TNA, because he got him to a point where now Anthem wants more. Now it's like, now we can leverage this into something. And now it's like, we need big business. Like we had Ed Nordholm before. Now we need another business guy. And now there's a conflict
to really help it, because fans, we've been saying this for how many years, Bill? We want to see this grow.
Of course.
And it seems
you don't want to make mistakes growing. You don't want to try to go too big too soon.
Right.
But
you're not,
remember the 5-year plan. It was on the TNI show. The 5-year plan was out there.
You're not going to book a 30,000 seat arena right off the bat, but they want to see this company grow to see where it actually is something that the bigger companies can compete with. Which is not, it's not, they want to make it someone where wrestlers still want to really come to, not just a trickle.
Yeah. And you look at that, Jay, just to kind of hit on that real quick, because I know it will come up. But you do look at recent examples. Like we did have some re-signings, and we'll get into some of those because obviously when Moose re-signed, he made it an emphasis to say how much Scott D'Amore was a part of him re-signing. Like he has a direct quote, "If there's no coach, there's no Moose." Like that. So now he gave his like shout out to the coach, and he's like, I'm going silent for a couple of days. That's kind of how we all feel in a way.
Yeah.
But I will say that could it matter that a lot of the big free agents, obviously Nick Nemeth came on board, fantastic. We know we're getting Mustafa Ali, fantastic. However, could some of these big names like the Osprey, back to the Jericho, like where supposedly there were these huge offers made, and Impact or TNA just always seem to be losing out on some of those guys. Now, could Anthem be like, could Len Asper being like, why are we losing out? I don't want to lose out. I'm a billionaire. So once again, we don't know that, but could that have played a part in some of this? Sure.
And that only makes sense. Let me read another portion here, and then we'll get to some super chats. Because I don't. Pardon me. All right. Part of my body is still waking up. I took a nap after dinner. So please pardon me. So I'm skipping a couple parts here, but this piggybacks off of what I just said before. TNA Wrestling is in a position to take a big leap toward its next stage of growth and expansion. Okay. while we can create more operational efficiency, and the most exciting part is expanding existing revenue streams and developing new ones, wrestling promotions have evolved from event-driven businesses to global media enterprises. And he's just using, I mean, the perfect example is look at what WWE has done. They just signed a $5 billion deal with Netflix.
And I'm sure Anthem was looking at that.
10 years.
I'm sure they're looking at that, even though you can't compare it. You'd be silly. Although I've been in business meetings over the years, Jay, where someone's like, there's 80% of the market that we're not selling to.
Yeah.
And they just think, well, you can sell to 80% of that market. You can't.
Yeah.
But when people look at numbers like that, dollar signs in the eyes, J-Bone.
So, and it goes on, and he goes on to compliment the company for the growth, especially the big return in Vegas, and he compliments those shows. So it's, he's not coming in saying, well, this is what's wrong with the company and I'm going to flip things around. No, he says the company is really showing potential. And it sounds like he just wants to help it get to that next peak.
Yeah, from a business aspect. He ain't talking about almost anything in ring. I don't think he's going to have anything to do with that other than maybe big money offers for certain stars, like certain budget type questions. But I think that's kind of the disconnect here, because obviously I think both myself, you, almost everybody in the chat, and most of our normal listeners would agree. Yeah. We think Scott D'Amore is one of the best bookers out there, if not the best. Like, if you actually paid attention to those Booker and Promoter of the Year awards, it should be Scott D'Amore. The way he puts together that weekly television program is outstanding. So that's the huge loss here. And obviously his push and his perseverance, and you could tell from the promos that people are talking about, like those TNA, like that was from the heart. Like his wanting to bring TNA back all these years, it was there. That was him. He was a big proponent of that. And I know Anthem, I think they saw the viability in that change too. So I'm not going to say they discounted. They recognized it as well. But Scott really led that charge to go back to TNA. And that's, once again, as a president and like just beyond the booking, that's a huge thing. The locker room, the culture, the family, that's all Scott D'Amore too, a lot of that. So, and you could see by a lot of the messaging from everybody on the roster, people backstage, like Scott D'Amore is very beloved in that locker room. So that these are the issues now they have to deal with. And I get wanting to do other stuff, wanting to really grow it, that they couldn't find a way to coexist. That's the thing that hurts. That's the thing that really is the struggle. But
oh, totally.
Like I was saying on the Discord, it's one of those things where the problem is once Scott became president, and hey, all power to him, you got to take it. You get the job, you got to take it. But then the pressure's on beyond just being the booking agent, just beyond running the locker room. It's like right now he's talking about those Vegas shows. We know those Vegas shows, yeah, they sold out, they had great attendance, but they also cost a lot more money than the normal shows. A lot more even for hotels, for travel. So in the end, did you wind up making more or less? They may have lost money on that deal. I don't know. But it definitely was a risk. And you go for these home runs to increase the brand. But there's definitely expectations. And that's the problem when you get at those higher levels, you get held to them. You get held to a different standard.
Right. So this is strictly, it sounds like it's strictly business. Now I think
100%. It seems like
take it. You got to take that with a grain of salt, folks, because we don't know, but we're just going off what we're reading and what it.
But what happens is when business gets there,
what it feels like.
It definitely, business seemed to be what caused it. But the problem is when you fight over business, it can become personal. And that, so there could be both in there. but definitely business drove this.
Right. All right, let's jump in these. I don't want to like let these go too far down and then forget about them.
Yeah, I'll throw up Bell's Boy right here.
All right. Number one, thank you guys. Certainly get your chats in here. We'll read them live. We appreciate the support. And thank this. I think we're hitting record numbers as far as being live right now. Make sure you guys, if you're digging the content, you appreciate us going live and talking about this, make sure you smash that like button, because that'll just help get the show shared online live and everything from YouTube. Appreciate it.
And the Twitch.
Yeah, and Twitch too. Yeah, we thank all our Twitch followers too. We don't talk enough about the Twitch, honestly. But we'll have to work on that. But anyways, here we go. Thank you, Bell's Boy. Says, what a weird year in wrestling, guys? McMahon gets ousted for good reasons. Rossi Agawa gets fired by Stardom for supposedly poaching his talent to other companies. That's interesting. I heard he was gone. I didn't hear why or any other.
Yeah, that was the rumbling out there. Was that the reason?
And now Coach Scott, and this year's only 6 weeks old. Yeah, we're barely into the month of love. It doesn't seem like a lot of loving going on in professional wrestling. There's a lot of tumultuous things happening in the world of professional wrestling. But thank you, Bell's Boy. And then here we got Justin Miller. Thank you, brother. And why hasn't anything been said about the dates beyond March, including Rebellion? Is it a byproduct of this situation? That's one thing we briefly said when Hard to Kill happened. Mm-hmm. It seemed like everything came off tremendously that weekend, performance-wise, show-wise, attendance, everything was all on the up and up. Going in the right direction, except one thing that we noticed that was not talked about or given any, because usually when they do these big shows, partway through the big pay-per-view, you'll see a quick blip, a 10-second, 20-second video on when's the next big show, which would be, is it Slammiversary? No,
Rebellion.
Rebellion, excuse me. Sorry, yeah. I know what month I'm in. I forgot what comes next. Yeah. Typically the big four, Hard to Kill, Rebellion, Slammiversary, and then BFG. But yeah, so so when is Rebellion? Where is it going to be? They typically at least let you know the date and the city.
Correct. You might not know where in the city, something like that, but you'll usually have at least an understanding of what it is. And that's why I think the first thing I said when I got on the post show was, did they announce it? Because usually they have something on the video, on the Tron behind. And but I'm like, all right, maybe I missed it. But then you're like, no, they didn't say anything. Like nothing from Tom or Matt. So that was a surprise. And now obviously some time's gone by and still no word on it. So I assumed it was maybe couldn't finalize a venue. Something with a venue fell through. That happened last year. So could that be the case? It's just like, is stuff getting moved around? But now with this coming, I think all these ideas are in play. That could have played a part in it.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Ash. I just saw this pop up. Yeah. So yeah. T Hughes, yeah, or a WrestleMania weekend date as well.
I don't think they're doing a WrestleMania weekend date at this point, because you're starting to see a lot of the talent on other shows. Because remember how they done WrestleMania lately. They worked with New Japan. New Japan right now isn't doing their own show or a combined show. They did the IPWF, which they never aired. So I think the way you approach Mania, you got to be careful on how you do that to make it like it seemed like they would do a joint show, but I don't think they could find a partner to do a joint show. And then obviously you see now what they're doing is they're going to be taping in Philly pretty much to cover those dates up until Rebellion, which if you just do the dating on everything should be the weekend of like April 20th and 21st. I have heard different rumblings, but I haven't confirmed anything on where that could be. But the latest I'm hearing is very surprising on where it's going to be. So, but I have no confirmation on it.
Yeah. So as much as it sucks and we love Scott D'Amore, I'm not saying you have to love the WWE, but if you at least follow the WWE and you see what's been happening over the last handful of years, and you see a guy like Nick Khan, getting this deal done, getting this deal done, getting that deal done, you see all these things unfolding before you in the social medias as far as growth, like, oh, new TV deal over here. Oh, new TV deal over there.
Yeah, it's all about content these days, Jay. Like, really, like,
right.
We are wrestling fans. Like, we grew up watching wrestling, and that's how we look at it a lot. So when you're booking it well, storylines are good, you got good talent, you got good crowds, that's like, we almost feel like that's enough. But then we do get, and we hear it, we see it, and it's like, well, you need viewers. And how are you getting those viewers? Are you getting TV ratings? Are you getting streaming views? But then it goes beyond that. It's like advertising. What platforms are you on? What are your, like, remember some of the things that saved TNA those years ago before Anthem was those international deals that kept them afloat because they had all that money coming from the Sony 6 deal in India, from different international deals all around the world. There was a reason they were promoting all those countries that they were in. So like, even when their TV deals weren't great, when they lost Spike, they still could make do with everything else they had.
Yeah, between India, Europe, Africa. I mean, if you looked at some of the numbers that they were doing in Africa over the last few years, it's like it was bigger numbers than what WWE is doing in the States, for crying out loud. It's ridiculous.
They outdid WWE in the UK for a while.
Yeah.
Like when it was on, I guess, Challenge TV over there. Now, like, one of the reasons is like WWE didn't even have a great TV deal at the time over there. So there's always ways to do it. But the problem is right now in this landscape, you need somebody doing, and I get that there's a part to it. Like, and the trouble is, I get Anthem wanting somebody to broker deals like that, because that is what the business is today. And you need someone with experience doing that. You almost need a lawyer to do that. These guys are usually lawyers.
Yeah.
But Scott's a wrestling guy. And the greatest thing would be you coexist. You find a way to make it work. But obviously, they couldn't do it. Now, I like to look at it. It's the wrestling business. To see you down the road. Scott D'Amore is TNA. He bleeds TNA.
Yeah.
If TNA is going to be around for the long haul, like we all want it to be, hope it will be, and do our best to make sure it is, there's going to be a place for Scott D'Amore to return. Now, when? Who knows? Like, I hope, based on the groundswell of support from the roster and people like that, I'm hoping they can figure something out. And maybe, who knows, maybe a couple months, maybe 6 months go by, maybe a year goes by, and they're like, Scott, come back, man. Be VP of creative, head booker, something like that. But unless there's more to it, and they have, but it doesn't sound like it. Like, I don't think they have a plan, and we'll get into that, like who could be taking the reins. I just assume it's the other internal people that are in that room. And they're not just like, oh, removing him to bring in, look, just name Paul Heyman style Booker. I don't think that's the plan right now. So
they're not going to bring in Pritchard.
Correct. Oh no, Jay. That's my I think you knew that saying that, because that's my lowest point in company history was when
the brand.
That him being in charge was the closest thing where I'm like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't, like, he almost seemed like he was there to infiltrate that company and kill it from the inside. Well, he made such bad decisions.
If you know how close of a Vince McMahon guy he is.
Oh, he's the tightest. Ask Ronda Rousey.
Next to Kevin Dunn, he's a number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ronda Rousey said on social media, I'm just going to paraphrase here, but she said something to the effect of, as long as Bruce Pritchard is in that company, Vince still has a foothold in the day-to-day dealings in WWE, because that he's running it through said other people, the yes men.
That's the business.
So yeah, that's kind of scary. Yeah.
We do have another one here, J-Bone.
Yes, let's. Like I said, I want to cover these. I don't want them to slip too far away.
Yeah, Swag fan.
Thank you very much, Swag fan. Go ahead. Go ahead, read this.
Scott got them to this point. Maybe this new Prez can get them to the next. Big business decisions can hurt, but Scott will want us to keep supporting TNA. And you know what? I know Scott hasn't said anything. I'm sure it'll take some time before he says anything, but I guarantee you that's Scott's philosophy. There's no way a guy that bleeds TNA like Scott D'Amore would say not to support the company and the people in the company. So I can guarantee you that, because once again, this is still a lot of ways his baby right here. So I'm sure he would want everyone to support. So, like, I know some people, I get it. I was feeling the same way initially thinking this. Like I was just like, what? Like, I was just at a loss. Like, where this is not what I'm expecting to see. Like, I would never expect. This is one of the least likely things I would expect to happen in this company. But I'm not going to turn on the company. I'm not going to turn on the performers. I'm not going to turn on the people. We're not going to turn on our fan base here. We support Scott. We're not going to say anything bad about Scott because we think Scott did great for this company. But obviously there was decisions made, another direction for now. It'll be tough to I think we've been talking a lot. We understand the business impact of this.
Yeah.
But and at times that can't work with other aspects, and that seems to be the case here. But hopefully, it probably could have been handled better, I would imagine. Just so soon after TNA, like, there's no doubt this is putting a ding on the momentum you're having right now. Like, so how do you, like, hopefully they have some, like, you got to now do some other things to compensate, because they're taking negative PR for this. There's no doubt. There's definitely a negative PR spin coming their way, which people kind of wait for TNA. And that, so you're kind of feeding those people right now. But once again, Swagfat, thank you for the comment. Feel free to keep jumping them in there. As we go through, we'll obviously be looking at other comments as well.
Yeah. So it's, the comment was made about, so many big things happening in wrestling right now. I think a lot of fans, look at a headline, and they're like, oh no, just because they know what Vince did and what others have done, they probably look at it like, oh, did Impact go deep diving and find something? And I'm not saying, please don't take this as, oh, J-Bone said Scott did this and Scott did that. No. I'm just saying I can just see what wrestling fans are going to assume right away, just given the vibe in the air in wrestling right now. Like are all companies going to do this, and deep dive and see what they can, find, and then, clean house, and then just to get rid of the bad stuff in, in the industry. But I don't see that as a thing here.
It doesn't seem that way, because
this
almost the way
feels like business.
Yeah, the way TNA approached it, the way the roster has responded to it, it doesn't seem like that's really anything there. Like, although you're right, in today's climate, that has to be a thought with almost everything, because we've seen it right now. Like, that's the industry.
Yeah.
But at least, and once again, that speaks to a lot of things, because people they all understand that. Companies understand that. Even the performers understand that. For them to go out there and almost 100% of the rosters come out in support of, with statements as of today for Scott D'Amore.
No doubt.
That's a good sign in those instances, because usually when there is, people have an inkling, and if people are quiet, that might make you more go in a direction like that. But that seems to not be the case here, which is obviously a good thing.
Yeah. Just looking at some numbers here. Yeah, we're doing some crazy numbers right now. We really appreciate everyone coming in here, and it shows that it shows how important something like this. If we're getting these kind of numbers, it's like, oh, the fans want to talk about this. The fans want to be heard.
Fans care.
The fans do care. Yeah. It was Nick Cruz here in the chat says keep supporting TNA. Oh, we absolutely have no qualms about.
Yeah.
Oh, Scott's gone, we're gone. No.
Definitely keep supporting TNA, but also I saw all the talent using the hashtag thank you, Scott. That's that's a good way to use it. That's how I would approach it. I'm sure I was probably going to put something out before the night ended, but then we decided to do this, so it might be after tonight ends. But that's how I would do it. I would do it, thank you, Scott, not like the stuff going on up north with a we want Scott or we want Cody, which it's a nice sentiment, but I don't think that helps. I think a thank you is the way to go on this. And like I said, it's a wrestling business. See you down the road. He's got too many ties to this company. Jeff Jarrett came back. Scott D'Amore can come back. And as long as it seems like it was for a parting of ways, somewhat amicable. And if that's the case, that's a good sign, hopefully, for the future.
Yeah. Aaron Check says, I would like the video, but how can I, man? This news sucks. I get it that the news sucks, but if you appreciate what we're doing, and that's all we're asking, is that you like the video for that. No, I get it. Yeah. I'm not asking you to like the news, just if you appreciate us covering it, and Gary Rossetti, yes, talking about it feels good. Absolutely. Yeah, let's get the feelings out there. There's positives and negatives to all this. Someone just mentioned Penzer, and I want to read what David Penzer wrote. Oops. Got too much crap on my desk. David Penzer.
Good old David Penzer.
Friend of the show. We love you, David. Love you. And he's more on the outside now than anything, but he certainly sees things. He hears things, pardon me. He says, I'm just going to say it. Without Scott D'Amore, Impact/TNA would be a video library probably owned by WWE. I saw him strip that thing down to the studs and rebuild it on less than the skeleton budget to where it stands today, which is ready to take off. Hope it survives. Massive loss.
And it's tough. It's tough not to totally agree with David Penzer, because like I was there at the taping where everybody there that worked for TNA thought it was the last show. Like people were saying their goodbyes, there were tears. Like it was in their mind, it was over. But it wasn't. It came back.
Right.
So like they've had obviously, and to go from that. Now, obviously, a lot of people played a part in that, but Scott D'Amore was a big part in that. So when you see somebody that kept it, that helped keep it alive, that helped bring it back, that's something you hate to see. It hurts because you know what they've invested of themselves to get it to where it is, and that it couldn't work out. That's something where it's like. But we've seen it before. We've seen these things happen before, and there's always a reason. And I'm sure more of it may come out. I know we're starting to hear some rumblings ourselves from our own TNI community,
Yeah.
our group here, where who knows? But some of that stuff it can happen, like because he was the president, like he may have wanted more power, more saying things. And Anthem is a big company that obviously based on what they did, they not only didn't want to give any more, they wanted to take, which once again could be for the positive in the business aspect.
Right.
And if that business aspect becomes positive, that should help with like more dollars for talent, production, exposure, which should improve the product as well. But obviously, there's people in roles, either expanded or new people that are going to have to come in and help fill a huge void. Because that is the biggest in-ring TV show now factor is now the loss of Scott D'Amore. And who picks up that?
Yeah. Do you see this getting to the point where you think there's going to be a rebellion from the roster as far as people leaving, or you think everyone's going to stay professional and
I think
for the future?
This is still only a couple hours old, and I get it. And I know there's been a lot of comments in the chat about it. Will people be like, hey, Scott's not here, I'm not here? And I'd probably be naive to say there might be a few. There's probably some guys that might only be in the company because Scott brought them in or Scott convinced them to stay. Now, obviously, if they have deals, that they're locked in regardless. But once those expire, they could be gone. And there could be obviously some people being pushed, some people being used that have heavy connections to Scott, which may not be the case anymore. Like I said, a big factor in this is going to be, I guess, do internal people, because I believe in booking right now, you got obviously Gail Kim involved. You got R.D. Evans. I think Tommy Dreamer plays a part in there. But are all those people just going to take on expanded roles? Or are they going to add a couple more cooks into the kitchen here? And then if that's the case, what are their connections? They might want to bring in some of their own people. So that's where things could. But it'd be naive to think that there won't be some fallout roster-wise. But I wouldn't expect any comments or non-comments right now from members of the roster to be too much to look into. Because obviously the initial reaction, but just like Jay, you've seen it, I've seen it. I think everybody in the chat, any job you've worked, you may have had a coworker that you're like, oh, they're doing a good job, they get screwed over. Are you going to leave your job because of that? Usually not. you got to kind of think for yourself on this one. Now, if you have other options at some point, you may then go, well, you kind of screwed that guy on the way out. So now that I have an opportunity, I'm on my way out. But just in general, that's not going to happen that often. You'll probably work it out as long as you feel if you were being treated right and continue to be treated right, then you won't let that matter.
Yeah. Right, because the first thing off the top of my head is like all the things that came out about, Brock Lesnar wanting to leave once Vince McMahon was gone. And I'm talking about a couple years ago before all of this, the big time stuff that's rolling out now, all the headlines. Because that whole thing is just, it's like a volcano that just keeps oozing lava right now. It's ugly. And it's going to be ugly for a long time, especially with the Johnny laryngitis stuff. But yeah, just in comparison, yeah. And you know what, me personally, I don't see it happening. I know that the people, at least I get the vibe from the people that work for Impact Wrestling, love it to the core and want nothing for it more than to grow and thrive and, and pack those houses and just keep growing. I don't see, I can see maybe a couple people maybe being upset to the point where they'd want to leave. We'll see,
Yeah, like I said, I think you're going to see a couple, I'm sure. The we're going with you type crew. If they have
who's
other
coming
options,
with me?
Yeah, come on. So, but no, I definitely, like I said, for the most part, I know we kind of set up a Jordan kind of saying it here. They still need to make a living who can really afford to walk out of their job because their boss got canned, and that kind of is it. Because it's funny. I'll give a personal story here. Obviously, not in wrestling, but the guy that brought me in, for those that don't know, I'm in the lighting business, and the guy that hired me years ago got me started in the lighting business when I had no experience in it. Is I'll teach you the lighting business. I was part of that company for over 18 years. He got let go about now, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago, something like that. And a couple months after he left, they're like, we want you to take over that job. And my first comment to the boss, to the guy that wound up becoming the GM of that company, was, I saw what you did to the other guy. Why would I do that? But then it's like, oh, we won't do that and all. So it's kind of one of those things where I wound up like, hey, I'm here. I did, and then I wound up doing it for like another 5 years. But then eventually I did go, you know what? I am going to look elsewhere. And where did I go? The place where that original guy was. So in a way I did it, but not instantly, but it was always in the back of my head.
Yeah.
And maybe that will be some of the performers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I can't tell you how many fans I saw over the past few months, given the return of TNA and wanting it to grow from that point. Like, boom, here's another launching point. This is what's happening. We're bringing in this person. When they started talking about, okay, so like certain people couldn't make the pay-per-view, but they came in for the tapings following, like Will Ospreay for that second match with Josh Alexander. Okada with
he
the
finished his story, J-Bud.
Okada finished his TNA story, right? Hey, someone did this here, right?
That's right.
Everybody wants to finish the story. I'm sure there's plenty of fans out there, including some from our crew, that looked at that like, well, gosh, if they came in for the tapings, why didn't they stay? I mean, obviously, yeah, you can't compete with WWE money, but if there's some kind of like realistic um offer on the table, why wouldn't these guys at least, you know, stick around for a little while longer and then maybe move on later? It's like if I mean, honestly, like if you look at, like, you were there in Chicago, you were there at Hard to Kill, I was there at Bound for Glory, and you just hear the reactions from guys like Will Ospreay. Just looked like he was just absolutely having a blast with the fans and in the company. It's like, and why didn't he stay? That would have been an absolutely phenomenal point to help kick off and bring in someone like that and help launch that. And that, please, it's nothing against guys like Mustafa Ali and the former Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth. I'd say that because it's Nick Nemeth doesn't roll off the tongue like it should. That's one that's going to take a while, but and those names are fine, and I'm very excited about those. But you look at who's the best in the world right now. That's who you want to attract to your company and show them, hey, this platform, this company is an option for you, that you can thrive in a company like this. Right now, it's not at that point, sadly. It's it's growing. If you are attracting names like Ziggler and Mustafa Ali, but but it's like, fans are selfish. Fans are greedy. Fans want more. Fans want, like, they're like, oh, well, I want this name to show up. I want this name to show up.
Do the Batista. Give me what I want.
Right. And fans want TNA to get to that point. So then you do end up down the road reading headlines like, oh, so-and-so's a free agent. Oh, and they're considering going to TNA. Like back in the day when Christian left, back when Kurt Angle left, and some of the bigger, who are now, veterans, and they don't wrestle anymore. But back when, Booker T was a bigger name, back when Steiner was a big, I'm trying to think like who was in the main event Mafia, Kevin Nash, the bigger
Sting,
names in the industry
everybody
that went to TNA.
Yeah, Kurt Angle, the Godfather.
The cross the line movement, they're trying to get that going again. They brought that back as the theme of the show. And it's like, okay, it's the theme of the show, but now you got to make that company feel like it's something, like if that's what you're promoting to the fans and industry people out there, like, hey, come on aboard. This is a company that's on the up and up and really growing now. You got to prove it now.
And I think everybody was seeing that. I think the belief was there. You saw other people like Will Ospreay coming in. I'm a TNA kid. Like he specifically went out of his way. I think Okada specifically went out of his way. That was something good with TNA. And Coach had a big part of that. But now they got a show without Coach, without Scott. They got to be able to do that. Now, some of that's going to be green paperbacks, J-Bone. It's going to be about that moolah. And hopefully they're willing. Like, by doing this, they're doing a little put up or shut up. Like you got to now, like you're going to have to pay some people to come. Like Scott may have been able to work some deals with connections, and hey, there's still people there that obviously can do that have good connections in the industry. And maybe they will bring in some names, maybe some former names that want to kind of get more into that. But a lot of it's going to be those paydays. And like I said earlier, maybe losing out on some big names or some re-signings, maybe that did play a part in this. Maybe they look back and they're like, why didn't we get this person? Once again, it's tough to tell. Like, I think a lot of the people from Anthem, they really enjoy it. They enjoy the product, but how deep in the weeds do they get with it other than financially looking at books and how, okay, we're making money here, we're increasing here, we're year over year. Are they actually looking at the TV product and the content there? Which we do a lot of the time. That's how we judge normally. Like if we're seeing good matches, good stories, and everything looks good on the screen, we're usually like, okay, that's good enough for us. But they're looking at it at a lot of different levels.
Yeah. So yeah. And I know and by the way, I know this news broke earlier today when the UK guys were on. I'm not sure how much in depth they covered it, but please, when you have time, go check out what the TNI UK boys from earlier today had to say about it. Because I know I happened to look at the comments real quick, so I know it was discussed. I just don't know to what length. But I could just picture Bison right now just losing his ever-loving mind over this news. Like, what? What the bloody hell? We love you guys. We love you guys. Here's talking about podcast. Who's in charge of creative is going to be an interesting call. I hope whatever changes they make are gradual. Yeah, Dreamer's a part of it. He's a producer. I know Gail Kim helps work with the knockouts.
Yeah, I know R.D. Evans is part of it. Because there's producers and there's creative. Like they can be not mutually exclusive of each other. Some people are producing, but not as much in the creative process. But then some of them kind of are in both worlds. But I think they're definitely going to have to, like, once again, like it's either really expanding others' roles or it's going to be bringing in either somebody on the roster or already there or bringing in somebody from the outside to fill part of that gap.
Don't bring in Pritchard.
That's enough. Too many mentions of that name today, J-Bone.
I'm sorry. I just you feel like you know a company and you know what they've done in the past, but no, they've come way too far to do anything like that. Yeah.
Because tonight was all about one man, and that's our coach. It's my coach.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we love Coach.
We love the coach.
Impact Wrestling!
Yeah, that one hurts.
Hold on, calm down, just breathe.
Justin, why must you hurt us more, Jay? I'm sorry. I shouldn't put that into the universe. Eric Bischoff? No. He's somewhere deep in the weeds in the heart of America on a horse ranch, just chilling like a villain. He ain't gonna do anything like that. Now Russo, on the other hand, no, I'm kidding. No, I know a lot of people hate Russo. We've got a soft spot for Russo, but just because
I'm sure he'll have a take on it.
Oh, I can't wait to see what he says. Yeah. We were,
I'm sure he'll be pitching himself.
we were part of his brand
Bro.
for
One day. No, a little longer than that.
We'll just say a cup of coffee.
Cup of coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. Keith, quit bringing up that name, bro. Kevin Dunn. No.
Well, you know what? He can say that name if you're going to say the name you keep saying.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's like, no. Like, you know, I think fans just literally stopped getting whiplash recently. The whiplash is actually healing. If you've noticed, the cameras aren't doing what Jey Uso does with his hands anymore. Okay,
That's one thing I hope doesn't happen, because one of my pet peeves is when the cameraman goes with the moves, like the zoom in and like just let it play out. Just let it play out. Steady cam.
Yeah.
Goes a long way. You don't need to make me feel like I'm in there. Yeah.
It doesn't need to feel like a 7.0 earthquake.
Yeah, I don't need that.
And what's even more ridiculous is actually watching the cameraman actually do that.
Oh, they do. It's almost amusing. Seeing them do their like.
You want to go?
Like that was something you would sometimes get from like the bigger, like from the like the WWE, but you didn't have to deal with it anywhere else. Now it seems like there's indie companies doing that.
Oh God! You want to go up to the guy? Are you okay? Are you having a seizure, sir?
Yeah, we don't need that.
No. Yeah, skull here. Yeah, don't do the Kevin Dunn shot.
Yeah, don't do that.
We'll
be better off.
Just want to briefly cover some a little positive news. It's not all negative, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow night too. I don't know if they're going to announce anything else to kind of warm the fans back up a little bit. But
I wonder if they'll even address this on the show at all tomorrow, or if like the coach will randomly show up in like a backstage vignette. Like, is Kevin Martin working right now? Or are they editing tape?
Oh God. There's gonna be some controversial take tomorrow, yeah. So it looks like Mustafa Ali looks to become the next X Division champion in his TNA debut at No Surrender. And that's coming up February 23rd. That's just a couple weeks.
First show without the coach.
That's going to be a big one. And that's going to have a lot of eyes on it, because I know a lot of people are really excited about this the free agency, I should say, of Mustafa Ali. I know he's also turning up in New Japan and several indies. So, Kill Steel in the chat says, we talked a little bit about that earlier, but if you want to address that, go ahead, Bill.
I have not heard Louisville. It wouldn't shock me if Louisville came into play, because they had hit there a few times in the past. Then they've kind of given it a break, so it wouldn't shock me if they did. But that is not one of the areas I'm hearing. The latest I heard was, let's just say, a very recent venue going back to already, which surprised me. But I have no verification of that on my own end. So
yeah,
I deal in fake news. I only deal in real news.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure.
Like, I know you were talking good news, J-Bone, but there is actually some other sad news because someone associated with early TNA
Oh, yeah.
away yesterday, and I know people are making comments, and that's Toby Keith, the country music star,
Yeah.
away from cancer yesterday. So definitely condolences, rest in peace, Toby Keith, because I know he had a lot of connections to TNA and a lot of the people that worked there at the time. Like there was even rumblings of him being in the buying group, like an ownership stake in TNA in those early days.
Investor.
That never happened, but it was, an investor at the time. So definitely condolences there.
Yeah.
Oh, and we do have a super sticker here. Let me throw that up from Swag Fan again.
Swag Fan, thank you. Hitting heavy tonight.
I'm giving home a chance.
Him.
Him. Oh, there you go. I'm giving him a chance. But the new Prez has some big shoes to fill with the fans. If this is for TNA to start popping, we need to see it. Agree. I think that's going to be the test here. I think that's how, honestly, people are going to judge. Is you're going to have to see some, okay, if you're getting away from the coach, you're going to have to still put on a pretty good product, so you can't lose there. But you're going to have to show some, like, big signing, expansion, another TV deal. Like, you're going to have some of this stuff in a quicker time frame. Like, you're talking, people are going to want to see some kind of results in 6 months, 9 months, definitely within a year.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to have a new plan laid out internally as far as, okay, so this is okay. We're doing this with Anthony now, and this is he laid it out in that in the press release as far as what they want to.
Like he's going to have to hit some of those deals. Like he's going to have to.
Yeah.
Like we're going to have to see announcements that like, oh, TNA just signed this. TNA is doing this. They're now showing up here, there, everywhere. And that's going to have to be the key here to show, okay, we see what you're doing. We get it. It's too bad it couldn't work out, but that's going to have to be what they're judged on. Like, once again, support the company, support Scott and whatever he's going to be doing now. But for everything to be successful and for the fans, they're going to have to see progress on these other things. Because to make a big move like this, and it is a big move, you're going to now have to, like, they put it out there. They're putting out, like, they have the goalposts up on where they want to get to. So now they're going to have to do it. And if they don't hit those goalposts, they're going to be judged accordingly.
Yeah. Seeing a lot of love for the formerly passed on Carl Weathers. Yeah, that's a sad one too.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Apollo Creed. Yeah, Action Jackson, and whatever
Predator.
Predator, big one, and whatever his character
Happy
was.
Gilmore. Chubbs. I got his eye.
Oh. I haven't seen that one in so long. I forget all the characters in that movie. But I know his most recent one was him being part of the Star Wars universe. Yes. I thought that was really cool. Really cool. Love this character in there. Yeah. So
and Jordan, a nice little thing there about the coach. Like, also worth noting, how many people would be in uproar about this movie if Scott wasn't a TV personality? Because that is something. Scott was, I know, like, kind of Santino had taken some of that authority figure there, but Scott really was still, for these last couple of years, a heavy on-screen character, authority figure. And obviously with the TNA change, like, he was a member of the roster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
If he was just behind the scenes booking and president, it probably isn't as major a story to outside people. Internally, if you know the history of how involved he's been, but he's also been on screen a large portion of his TNA career.
Oh, yeah. And that was that was a work in progress too, because when he and if you go back a handful plus years, when he and Don Callis took over the company, at least the stuff on the road and everything, and they were both co-VPs or something to that effect. I believe is what their first titles were.
Yeah.
Don Callis, you didn't see him much. He went on commentary. You actually saw Don Callis more than you saw
Initially.
Scott. Took a while for
for
Scott
sure.
to really kind of come out from the curtain.
Yeah.
He was always heavily backstage, but then bit by bit over that handful of years or more, you saw Scott kind of get in front of the fans a little more, and that only made the fans happier, because they knew what his intentions were. They knew what he was trying to do. So,
oh yeah, somebody, you can tell somebody that loves the company. And the thing about TNA and Impact, there's a lot of people that's obvious that they love the company, and like it shows. And when the guy in charge loves it that much, it's something that it's something you do feel. And when there's now more of a lawyer type guy running the company, in a way, once again, it's from the business side. Like, will he be at every show? Probably not. I wouldn't expect it. I think he'll be at big shows, but do I think he'll be at every loop? No. Not saying he has to be. But, and that's part of, like, Scott, probably to do all that, it probably wasn't realistic. Like, maybe he could have been the president, but he may have had to give up maybe part of his reins of being the head booker. Like, it's one of those things you see, and once again, I don't want to get into other ones, but you see some of the negatives that happen in other promotions when one guy tries to do everything. You just can't do it. You have to lean on other people.
Right. And Scott has, I want to say had, but, the team is there. I had to check the roster page. Yeah, he's gone from the roster page.
Oh, that was they got on it.
Son of a gun. Santino still there. Oh man.
Some people probably read that press release, and some people probably did a quick look at it and are like, "Is Santino now the president of TNA?" Doesn't he have a name that's like that?
Oh God.
You son of a gun.
Son of a gun. So well, I think we've wrung this out as much as we possibly could.
Yeah. No, I think we got our breaking news in, gave an outlet. Obviously, if you didn't watch this live, feel free to comment. Let us know your thoughts on what happened, what you're thinking right now with Anthem, Scott D'Amore, the direction, TNA going forward. Would you like to see? And then obviously we'll be talking about this again after the latest episode of TNA Impact on Access TV and the YouTube Ultimate Insiders tomorrow night, Thursday, right about half hour after the show.
Yeah. That's our normal time. For those of you that came in and you're new and you were curious about the news, that's usually when we go live. It's our weekly episodic show. Yeah, like Bill said, following Impact Wrestling, TNA Impact Wrestling. Still getting used to that, Bill. Still getting used to that. But in a good way,
TNA on TNI.
TNA on TNI. Yes. So yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in for this. I had a feeling we were going to do some okay numbers. I didn't think we were going to do this well. It shows the love of the fans for the product, for the brand itself, for TNA. So Yeah. And we'll I don't know if there's going to be any additional stuff. We'll probably touch on it again tomorrow, for those
Oh
that
yeah.
didn't tune in tonight. It'll be the biggest news of the week, Impact Wrestling wise. Yeah. So, but thank you everyone. Much love. On your way out, make sure you smash that like button, smash that sub button, ring that bell for notifications. Why? So that you know when more of our content, like tonight, hits your screen. Thanks, Bill. And thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
Jay.
We'll be back tomorrow.